Excited about that. I'm excited to be doing this work and doing this work with you guys, doing this work we came to this planet to do. And that's just exciting to me. Every year, though, I get excited this time of year, so that's okay. Now this 2022 is going to be an unusual year because we are coming out of 2 very unusual years. And a lot of us have seen this as kind of a recalibration, stepping into our soul in a bigger way. But what happened was 2 years ago, of course, there was a wave of fear that hit the planet, and then that went into divisiveness, and divisiveness is the best way to keep fear going. And so, for anyone who wants to be a rising tide, who wants to be a force for good, what we're going to be doing this year, our charge, is to be calling forth our soul in the biggest way we have ever done before in our lives. Calling forth the God force through us, for us, as us, and sending it out into our life and in the lives of other people. We are going to be demonstrating a phenomenal kind of love, a phenomenal amount of creative energy and creative expression. We're going to be demonstrating a phenomenal expression of what it means to walk in faith. Like, what does that really mean to be in faith? So this is what's going to help us demonstrate the truth, the big spiritual truth that we are all one. Like, we are all one. God is all things. And everything, every person on this planet is the physical manifestation of God walking around in this earth. And, you know, I think it was Mother Teresa who said that when she is with the homeless and the sick, that she's staring into all of Jesus's distressing disguises. That's what she said, sort of, something like that. But she did say it was his distressing disguises. Now sometimes we might have people in our life, we look at them and we forget that they are also the activity of God in this world. So this is our big demonstration this year, because when we are experiencing any kind of divisiveness, it keeps us from expressing our purpose. It keeps us from calling forth as much good, as much love as we possibly can in that moment. So this year will be built on what we bring with us from the last 2 years. That's what this year will be built upon. So what are we bringing with us this year? So this is how we are truly in uncharted territory. You know, 2020 we were all scratching our heads. 2021 even. We kind of thought, oh, it's the year to go back to normal, and it didn't. So here we are. Like, we are really in the most uncharted territory I think that we've ever been in collectively. Like, some of you may have been in it, you know, your own uncharted territory, but collectively, this is where we are. What we do next matters. And to do this work of calling forth our soul, calling forth God, calling forth the good, we must know ourselves. We must know the truth about ourselves. And this has always been a spiritual truth. This has always been a teaching that we must know ourselves. We must know the truth about ourselves, being in alignment with who we really are, honoring where we come from and what it is that's working through us, for us, as us. Do we honor our own divinity, our own divine nature with our choices? Like, do we do that? Do we honor ourselves? So being in alignment is how we know ourselves, how we know the truth about ourselves, and how we make the choices then that honor the divine nature in us and the divine in other people. But we don't do that if we are experiencing divisiveness, and we don't do that if we are in fear. Paulo Coelho, the author of The Alchemist, said, "Don't give in to your fears. If you do, you won't be able to talk to your heart." And so I thought that's what I would talk about today, is what it might look like to give in to our fears. Because sometimes I think, like when I think of fear, I think of being scared. I think of that feeling where your stomach just kind of drops to the floor, right? That feeling like when you are on a roller coaster or, I don't know, a really tall building and you look out over a railing. But we can act in fear in other ways. So if we can give in to fear. or we can come from our heart. And it's through our heart that we are having adventures. It's through our heart that we become powerful navigators of this uncharted territory. So what does that look like when we give into our fears? And what does it look like when we talk to our heart? So I want to talk about the heart first. There's a lot of talk about the heart in ancient teachings, in old mystical texts. In the Hindu tradition, the heart is believed to be the connecting link between heaven and earth. It's from the heart that you experience cosmic love. You experience divine love, the love of God. And it's through the heart that you experience the feelings of being loving. The soul rests in the heart. The soul expresses through the heart. And this connection, this heart, provides the connection between our body and pure source energy. So the heart is like a doorway. It's a doorway to the realm of the infinite. Like we go through here. We go through here. Heaven's not up there. Hell's not down there. We call forth either or, really, through here. Because through our heart, we are also vulnerable. Because we can succumb to negative thinking. We can dive into victimization and blame. In the book of John, chapter 14, teacher Yeshua said, "Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in me, or believe in God and believe in me." What he was saying was, believe in the stuff that I'm teaching. Believe when I say that with God, all things are possible. When you focus on God within, all things are possible. He said, all the things I do, all these miracles I do, it is not I who does these miracles. It is the Father within me that does these miracles. Jesus was very clear that he did not lean on his own understanding, that he leaned on the Father within. And what could he gotten out of his own understanding? I just have to wonder when you think about his miracles. Like raising the dead, right? Who did that? I mean, who else did that? Like, how would he even understand that? How would he understand, how could he conceptualize multiplying the loaves and the fishes? So he was not leaning on his own understanding. He was leaning on God within. When he said, just keep focusing on the Father within, you can do all this stuff too. That was one of his promises to us, that we could perform all those miracles also. From the book of Proverbs, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. Turn away from evil and in all your ways acknowledge God, and that force will open the way. So we trust in the heart. We're using our heart to experience faith, to experience trust. Here is where we just know that these teachings, they work. We can demonstrate the truth of these teachings by going into our heart. But we must guard our heart. That's why it says, turn away from evil. Trust in the heart, trust God with all of your heart, and then turn away from evil. Now, in our own lives, what that might look like is stop dwelling on the limitations. Stop dwelling on the restrictions and the conditions in your life. Stop dwelling on what other people should or shouldn't be doing. Instead, focus on God. In all of your ways, acknowledge God. Now, for me, what this looks like is when I get frustrated, I remind myself, God is all things, and that means me. And sometimes that's just as enthusiastic as I feel. Oh, God is all things, fine. But the more I say it, the more I start feeling it. So this is how we're acknowledging God all the time. God all the time. We just keep reminding ourselves, God is all things. And when we're acknowledging the Spirit of God working through us, for us, as us, that changes us within. Because we're acknowledging not a mythology, we're acknowledging that this power that creates worlds is also at work within us. Because God is all things. We're not left out of that. The acorn is not the only little thing that's covered and has a divine program and divine order within it. We are covered in that also, because God is all things, and that doesn't leave out anything. So that includes us, even on our worst day. Even on our worst day, we are still part of that physical expression and dynamic, divine expression. So there's a great deal of power in this heart of ours. There's so much power, but we must have awareness. We must be able to direct our heart away from the things that frustrate us, away from the things that cause us to feel like we're being victimized, away from the things that would cause us, to feel judgment against others, and move into that us versus them place, that me versus you place. So we guard our heart. We focus on God, the activity of God working through us, so we can stay in the awareness of who we really are and what it is that is working through us. Okay, so that's the heart. That's the heart. Now, when we focus on fear instead, like Paulo Coelho said, don't get stuck in your fear or you can't talk to the heart. Fear is when we get focused on conditions in our lives. We get focused on the things that we are blaming, the things that are out of our control, right? The things that other people do that we wish they wouldn't do. We get focused on all that. It's not actually a feeling necessarily of that being scared, but it can just be that we're putting all of our power on something outside of us. Now, when we are focused in fear and thinking about the things out in our life that are not going well for us, we don't see the activity of God. We don't have the awareness of how God is moving. We don't notice the signs and the wonders. We don't pay attention to the solutions. And this is what we're losing when we are focused in fear. Now, as a spiritual person, it can be easy to tell ourselves, well, I'm not acting from fear. I'm just being logical. I'm just being reasonable. Well, is it reasonable to think that I should set this person over there straight about how they did this, whatever? Because they're making somebody else's life hard. So it's just reasonable. I do that all the time, so, right? That's why I can make fun of myself. Now, most of us know fear as our stomach hitting the floor, as being scared. But here's the thing. If we are not demonstrating in our lives love, if we're not demonstrating abundance, if we are not demonstrating well-being and enthusiasm and creative expression, if instead we are demonstrating feelings of restriction and frustration and being stuck and lack, limitation, we might just be in fear. Okay, that's what fear can look like in our life. How fear can look is blaming something, blaming a condition, blaming a person, needing something outside of us to change so we can be happy again. Now, what this shows is that we just lack the faith that we can call forth solutions. We are not feeling like there's something at work in us. We don't trust our own inner resourcefulness. So we need that thing to do all the changing so we can be happy. We might be stuck in fear when we need somebody else to change, when we want to control how somebody eats, votes, prays, or loves, when we think we know what's right. Well, this means we don't trust the activity of God in that person. We don't trust God's timeline in that person. We don't like that we don't know God's timeline in that person. When do we ever actually even know God's timeline in anything, in our own life? But when we feel like we're the only one who can tell that person what to do, then we lack faith and we're in fear. And if we don't trust how God is working in another person, we are not trusting how God is working through us and into our own life either. Fear might also look like not wanting to try something new. And sometimes we might say, well, I have this fear of failure. And that is a legitimate fear, like fearing failure. But you know what else we can fear in trying something new? Is that we'll be good at it. We'll succeed at it. And then there's more work for us to do in our life. And then we have to be more responsible for our way of thinking and acting in this world. Because now, well, we were being responsible, and it made these positive changes and demonstrations in our life, but now I got to keep it up till keep it going. So that can feel like a lot of work. And it's going to mean giving up behaviors that keep us stuck. If we want to do anything new in our lives, and it doesn't have to be a big thing like starting a new business or something like writing a book. It can be, well, I just want to improve my health. I just want to get stronger. I just want to have deeper, more loving relationships. But there's a lot of commitment that goes with any of those things. And if we don't have those things at a level where we want them, that means we're doing something that's keeping us from pouring all of our energies into that. Like, I know for me, what that looked like when I wanted to write a book, but like it wasn't writing itself. Well, I was going on Netflix, like, or doing some kind of silly computer game. But then I would be like, dear God, please, I really want to write this book. And I would hear, write the book. Write, just sit down and write. Like, finally I had to just make myself take 2 hours every morning. Now, I wrote a book on fairy folklore back in 2000, it was like 6 or 7, right? I got approached by a publishing company. Now, this is the funny thing, I've been wanting to write a book, but my kids were young, and it would be Saturday, and I was committed to writing 500 words a day, which doesn't equate to a lot. Sometimes that comes out like that. But you know, there would be other days I'd be sitting in front of that computer for like 4 hours while the family was all having fun. And I was mad at them for having fun. And I was mad that I wasn't writing the book quicker, right? And I was resenting this gift, right? As somebody asking me to write a book. So creating something new in our life is going to take away from somewhere. And sometimes we're just not ready to do that. It can be hard to change. Like, even if we want something really bad, it can be hard to change. Now, what all of these things have in common is that they're distracting us from our purpose. They're distracting us. And like in unity, we'll call it the little me, or little me. In personal growth circles, it's called the ego. In some traditional Christian teachings, it's called the devil or Satan. But here in unity, we just see it as the little me, the little devil sitting on our shoulder, and it wants to distract us. That's its job, really just to keep us safe from cradle to grave. That's its only job. And it has worked so well for humanity. That's how we managed to be here today, because our ancestors lived long enough to be able to have kids. All right, they were able to avoid getting eaten by a bear or a tiger for long enough to procreate. And that's how the little me works. That's how the ego works. It just makes us afraid when we step out of our door in the morning. But see, now we're not being chased by tigers. Now the bears are the adventures in creativity that we're having. So it distracts us. That's going to be really hard. Are you sure you want to commit to that? What you could do first is this. Take some time, sit in front of Netflix for a little while, maybe make some popcorn, and write some notes if you think of anything. Right? So that's how it's keeping us distracted. It keeps us distracted. Now here's the big work of our lives, what we are here for. And that's just to express ourselves as the powerful creators that we came here to be. We did not come to this planet to collect stuff. We came to this planet to create experiences and get better and better at calling God forth through us. We're here to get better and better at acting on faith. Like, we do our best with what we have right here and now. We have faith in that. What can I do right this minute? We have faith in that. As we demonstrate faith in our lives, then we're given more to work with. We're given bigger obstacles and opportunities to call forth faith. And this is our goal, and this is the adventure of our life. Now I want to share the metaphor of a mountain climber. I don't like the idea of mountain climbing, because I accidentally saw a little part of a movie, and like some mountain climber was dangling like over the abyss, and there's little tiny metal spikes they pound into the wall of the mountain, and somebody falls into the abyss, and somebody's leg is always broken and the bones are sticking out everywhere. It's like, I am not into mountain climbing at all, but that's probably more the exception than the rule. But if you think about a mountain climber, A mountain climber does not wake up Saturday morning and think, you know, today, after lunch, I think I'll go climb Mount Everest. Mm-hmm. What may happen is they wake up and they get inspired. You know what, I want to plan this out. I haven't been climbing for a little while. I'm going to plan a climb. I'm going to plan an expedition to Mount Everest. So then they're inspired, they get excited, they go through the planning stages, and they get their maps, and they get their weather charts. And I don't know, now I guess they have fancy technology, which doesn't seem quite fair. Like, I think they should do it the old-fashioned way, right? With their astrolabe, and I don't know, whatever it is that they use. But they've got to bring tents, they've got to bring clothes, because I think any mountain over a certain height has snow, like no matter where the mountain is. I think there's probably snow over 20,000 feet. So they have to plan all that out, and bringing the food, they prepare their body for this arduous trek. I don't think any mountain climber would spend the month ahead of a big climb sitting on the couch eating pizza and donuts and watching Netflix. They're probably eating clean and doing things to make their body strong and eating a lot of protein and doing that kind of thing. So there's part of their big plan. Then they gather together a team. And their team is just as excited as they are. Their team is just as committed as they are. Because nobody wants to do this arduous journey up this mountain with someone who doesn't care and has to be carried along the way. That just makes more work. So that's even part of the planning, is to know who's capable of going up this mountain with you. Okay, then they get to the top of the mountain. This is where they plant their flag. This is the proof that they did it. The proof of their journey. Now, they probably could have had a helicopter drop them off. I don't know if a helicopter can go to the top of Mount Everest, but it could have gone pretty far up there. It could have maybe even dropped off all their supplies, so they just walked up the mountain, like didn't worry about carrying stuff. I don't know. But see, a mountain climber could say to his friend who's going on an expedition, well, will you take my flag and put it up there too? Mm-hmm. Like, there's no joy in that. There's no excitement in that. There's no, danger in all that. Planting the flag is just the proof. Look, I did this. But it's from this moment of inspiration and then all of this stuff going up this mountain, and I don't know, maybe Mount Everest looks like this. I don't know. But that's the exciting part. And then they do it again. Then they do it again. Climbing up the mountain, for some people, probably is plenty of time. But for those mountain climbers, that's their life, one time is not enough. They're going to plan it again, and they're going to do it with another mountain. They're going to have a different experience with a different mountain. And this is what our journey on this planet is all about, is doing these new things, calling forth faith in a brand new way, being excited. Like, wow, I did this. I made it from here to here. I climbed my own mountain. I'll plant a flag, but it was this part that was so much fun. This is where we get so much joy. Now, all of us have our metaphorical mountains. This year for me, a couple of the mountains that I want to climb one of them is getting Unity back into the black. We were in the black before the pandemic. And so now we're getting back into the black by creating new events. And one of the big events we had last year was a wedding, like you've never seen. Like seriously, you've never seen anything like this wedding. And what was interesting is there was the planning sphere of the people working really hard on this. I was in the outer sphere of this actually, just thinking about the church stuff. Will the grass be okay? You know, our event thing is done, blah, blah, and I'm just thinking of this stuff. But you know what, going all through the month of September and October, it was like 49 days and the wedding will be done. 38 days and the wedding will be over. And it was kind of this, right, because there's so much involved in it. And then we got to the day of the wedding, and it was so much fun. And then the next day, I came in, did service, and went home and sat in front of Netflix the rest of the day. But you know what? By probably not Monday, but Tuesday, I was like, I want another wedding at this church. I want another wedding here. And we've been having different kinds of events. Because for me, like you all may not like it, but for me, being in the planning of that and feeling so excited about it coming up, and then seeing it the day that it happens, that's what my soul loves. That is what my soul loves. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was driving to go work out with Taylor. It was like dark in the morning. It was dark early dark. And I was thinking about like stuff, right? The kind of stuff, sometimes you get into that and it starts weighing on you. And I was just like, okay, God, what do we do next? And then all of a sudden, this quote pops into my head that I love. It's my favorite quote. I believe it's Meister Eckhart. When the soul wants to experience something, she throws an image of it out in front of her and then steps into it. And then all of a sudden, I felt this divine love pouring through my heart. And clearly in my head, I heard, you are right where your soul wants you. After you go through this, you are going to be so excited about the whole process of everything you did. This image, this is the image your soul threw out for you. And you stepped in it. And that's sometimes what it feels like. All right, so here's our call to action this week. Our affirmation is kind of a long one. And I'll put it up on social media too, but there's so much to us walking in uncharted territory and us having faith in God, but also having faith in ourselves so we act on the information that we are getting from the divine. If we don't have any faith in ourselves, we're going to hear like inspiration, and then we're going to go to, well, I couldn't do that. God's talking, I got the wrong message. This is somebody else's message. Okay, so here's our affirmation. Let's say it together. All that I need to know at any given moment is revealed to me. I trust myself, and I trust life. And life is spelled with a capital L. Okay, so that's life, love, the cosmos, the universe. When we step into uncharted territory, our fear around uncharted territory may be that there are no guarantees. There are no guarantees that everything's going to work out. There are no guarantees that everything's going to flow smooth. There are no guarantees that you're going to end up where you were hoping to end up. But there's always a force working through us, for us, as us, into our life. So even if we hit a bump, even if we're following the divine guidance, there's still like other people interacting in our lives, right? There's still weather. And so what happens is that means there's always an inner resourcefulness within us that is available to get us through that next thing that was unexpected, that feels like it didn't work out. That's always available within us. Our only option, well, we have two options. When we are facing the abyss, when we are in uncharted territory, we have two options. We can not do it. We can decide it's too hard. Or we can embody faith and let God guide us through. We let God guide us through. That's how we get through uncharted territory. We are here. This is again is our purpose. We're here to learn to rely on our soul. We're here to learn to rely on faith and how God is working through us and into our life. Now, if what we want does not require any faith, it's not uncharted territory, and it's our comfort zone. And that's okay too to have some of those. That's all right. But again, our soul's here for the big experiences of being a little scared, but doing it anyway, acting on faith. Also, you know, when things are in our comfort zone and easy and require no faith, guess who fully supports that every single time? Our little me, our little devil sitting on our shoulder. I was like, she chose something easy. Thank you. She's not going to get eaten by a bear. I can just kind of sit here for a minute. It's through our choices, it's through our actions, our activities, our creative expression, that we're calling forth this God force. So I'm going to ask you, what mountain is it that you want to climb? I told you one of mine. One of my other ones is to be in my right-sized body this year. Like the body that feels good and I don't worry about my knees anymore, right? That's one of my mountains this year. And I have a really good support system for that. I don't husband, he's a good support system too. He cuts up my cucumbers. I hate being in the kitchen. But he cuts up all my veggies for me, so I appreciate that. But what is that mountain, the new thing that you want to do this year? Or a different thing you want to do this year? It may look like maybe you want to learn to cook. Or maybe you want to get strong. I know, right? It's like, no, just keep me out of the kitchen. Right? But there's somebody on this planet that wants to learn to cook. Right? Or maybe you want to get stronger. Or maybe you want to be better at accessing inner peace and expressing that peace in your life. Maybe you would like to express more of your artistic self. Maybe you want to take a class. You know, when I graduated high school, it took me until I was 25 years old to go back to college, or to go to college, because it seemed hard and it seemed scary. Right? That was a big mountain for me back then. It took me a few years to get there. Maybe you would like to give yourself play dates with friends every month. Right? Some of us, myself included, don't make time for friends and going to the movies and stuff like that. Right? Maybe you would like to have an artistic date with yourself once a week. Go to a button store. Right? Buy some, paints and chalk and do something crazy on your sidewalk. Maybe you want to start something brand new. Maybe you would like to look at something you've been wanting to do and it's always felt important to you, but you always have a good excuse for not starting it this year. I have one more thing I need to do and then maybe I'll do this. Or I need to get over this thing here and then I will do this thing. Maybe there's something you've known about it. It's been calling to your heart for years. Maybe this year, that's one of your mountains. Maybe that is. I'm going to show you a faith map. I made this, and there's some up here for all of you. Now it's on parchment, right? Kind of fake parchment. It says faith in the middle. Write something on this list that you could only do if God does it for you. God does it through you, for you, as you. Write something on this list that you have to have faith to do or it ain't going to happen. Okay? And I've already written a few things on mine. So only put that on your list. This is your faith map. Okay, your faith map. If you can look at your faith map and think, God, this is what I want, but how on earth am I going to make that happen? Then that's the thing you want on this map. Okay? Then what we're doing every day, this big stuff it can seem overwhelming, but really all we have to do, this is all we have to do, no matter what's on this map, is we just check in with our God self every day. Throughout the day, we check in, we allow ourselves to be inspired, we're open to inspiration, and we just wait for that guidance on the next right thing to do. The next right thing to do in our day. And that builds on things. That builds on that gives us more steps. We start off, it's just one step at a time, it's all we're doing. So we just ask that. What's the next right thing that I can do today? The unity principles give us the tools for doing all this. That's why I love the unity principles. And there are a lot of tools out there for us. But these, if you go to God is all things, God is all things, and that means me and my idea and my big dream that I want to grow. The guidance that is inspiring me to do the next thing, that's all from God because God is all things. I create my experiences through my actions and my choices. When we act on faith, it changes the experience of our life just a little bit, doesn't it? Right? When we act on fear, that changes the experience of our life. When I pray, meditate, do my denials, my affirmations, it is so much easier to listen and hear when God speaks. When I pray and do that stuff where I'm deeply connecting in with the divine within me, I then experience that feeling of faith in that next action that I'm guided to do, even if it seems a little scary to do that. And it's not enough to know this stuff. I must live it. I demonstrate my faith through my choices and through my actions. Now, this is how we express ourselves as the powerful creators that we are. We just ask, what's the next right thing for me to do? And we just are open to listen and hear when God speaks. You are here to overcome these conditions that distract you. You're not meant to be stuck in the distraction. That's why when somebody's stuck in distraction, they start feeling worse and worse. And I'm like not even hardly ever on social media right now because you can see this happening really bad on places like Facebook. But you're not here to stay distracted. You're here to call forth God through you, for you, as you, and overcome that and rise to that next great thing in your life. I have one more quick metaphor. We're almost done. From Clarissa Pinkola Estes. She says, one of the most calming and powerful actions you can do to intervene in the stormy world is to stand up and show your soul. Struggling souls catch light from other souls who are fully lit and willing to show it. If you would help calm the tumult, this is one of the strongest things you can do. When a great ship is in harbor and moored, it is safe, there can be no doubt. But that is not what great ships are built for. And you as a soul, you are not here to play it safe and small. You can stay safe that way from who knows really, adventures. But you are here to have that adventure in creation. You are here to stand up and show your soul, to walk in faith, so that you can also be an emissary for anyone who has ever lost faith themselves, for anyone who has lost hope. And that is how we are creating heaven on earth. So until next time, remember, you are divinely designed to do all of this stuff. In everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is. And remember, grab one of these before you leave today. I would love to hear what you did with yours.